Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I want to thank the hospital for hosting us this morning. This is a great room, and if you haven't tried the pastries, you're missing out. I'll tell you that right now. They're great. And as soon as I stop talking, I'm going to finish mine. But again, thank you to the hospital very much. We really do appreciate it. Just a couple things, an update, and then Jess is going to kind of give you an overview of follow-ups that we did from the last meeting that we held, and then we'll open it up for questions. Lots of things going on in Havasu right now. As I mentioned last time, the hotel, the Holiday Inn Express, is now open. They are getting a lot of people staying there. In fact, we have a conference coming in 3 weeks, and all those rooms for that conference is filled. They filled up London Bridge Resort, Holiday Inn Express, and I think we're headed over to the Quality Inn at this point in time. So it allows us to have a little bit larger conferences. The work on the Havasu Riviera continues. You've probably seen some of the signs that are in preparation for putting in that traffic light. But that's, again, we're hoping to get that started in the very near future. We've been working on the infrastructure, the road, lots of progress in that area. In terms of some of the events, one of the things that we did, by the way, last Saturday was National Public Lands Day. My understanding, I wasn't able to go, but about 35 or so folks, including some of the Youth Advisory Council, were there to clean up the trailhead at Sarah Park and do some painting, put down some rock. It was a great event. Thank you very much. It's just, again, improving our park system. And the reason BLM was involved there is because, again, Sarah Park is part of the BLM property. Let's see, and just a little later on today, I'm headed to Kingman to, the governor is having a roundtable for local elected officials. Mayor-elect Sheehy, who just walked in, will be going with me up there and talking about local issues that maybe the state can be helpful on. And speaking of the governor, we did get confirmation that he will be here October 20th when the Lord Mayor is here. Since the last meeting, we have also, besides confirmation of the mayor, we have confirmation that we will have a sheep drive over London Bridge. Thanks to Jerry, she managed to find a 4-H club in Little Bo Peep, yeah. 4-H club in La Paz County. I believe there's going to be 10 young ladies and their sheep with the Lord Mayor, myself, John Parrott, who's also a freeman, several others in town who are considered freemen. And we're going to do a sheep drive across the London Bridge starting at, is it 11 o'clock, Jerry? 11 o'clock on October 20th.
The ceremony's at 10.
Yeah, we do have a ceremony under the bridge at 10 o'clock. Again, this is all about the 50th anniversary of the purchase of the London Bridge by Robert McCulloch. And that's why the Lord Mayor is coming here. It also happens to be the 40th anniversary of the incorporation of our city. So the schedule pretty much looks like at about 8:30 in the morning, I'll be taking the Lord Mayor over to the Run to the Sun event. He'll be selecting his favorite car, and they'll be giving a trophy later that day for the car that he selects. At 10 o'clock, we will have celebration under the bridge where they'll have refreshments and some, are we having pastries? Oh, cake. We're having cake. And we're planning an interview style I don't know what you would call it, I guess an interview with the Lord Mayor on the stage with the idea of him explaining a little bit about what his role is and also the significance of a sheep drive, because otherwise they're just going to think we're a bunch of crazy loons walking across the bridge with 10 sheep. But there is significance to it, and that significance is basically back in the day when you received your freeman status, as was called Freedom of the City. I think the first time it was done in London was the year 1237. It allowed you to bring livestock, including sheep, into center of town for trading purposes. Obviously, they don't do a lot of sheep trading in middle of London today, but having said that, that tradition is kind of continued. In fact, they just recently had a sheep drive in London just a couple of weeks ago. Last weekend, okay. So it should be a lot of fun. From there, he'll be meeting with officials from ASU, meeting with our economic development group. He'll be also meeting with the Greater Phoenix Economic Council later that day. There'll be a lunch right after the sheep drive. The public is invited, and it will be at the London Bridge Convention Center. Nope, I got that wrong. King Arthur Room, I'm sorry. So I'll say that again. It will be at the King Arthur Room at London Bridge Resort, and the governor will give a brief speech and welcome to our Lord Mayor, and overall it's just going to be a great event. This doesn't happen very often here in Lake Havasu City, and so we're really excited that he is going to be here. And then on Sunday, Jerry and I will be driving him back to the airport because he has to be back for some other event. The Lord Mayor is it's a very interesting position, as I've said before. It's a position that has existed some 800 years. He is the 690th Lord Mayor, I believe, and they travel the world. They're Lord Mayor for 1 year, and they travel the world to represent the interests of the City of London. And that person is not to be confused with, quote unquote, the Mayor of London. The Mayor of London is elected a position same as mine. The Lord Mayor is elected by corporations and people within that 1 square mile in the middle of London where all the financial assets exist. And that's how Robert McCulloch was able to buy the bridge. We didn't buy it from the greater City of London. We bought it from the City of London Corporation. So when it was sinking into the River Thames, Robert McCulloch purchased it. There was recently a terrific documentary about it on BBC television. I'm still trying to get the link to it, but they also had a magazine-style documentary as well that you could get on your computer, and it was incredibly well done. So, as I said, we're very excited that he's going to be here. I'm hoping that the weather cooperates because there's a lot of outside of events that day. One of the things that we made sure, because we wanted to make sure that they weren't thinking it's similar to London in October, which could be quite cool. We told them to dress comfortably because it isn't unusual for it to be 90 degrees. So we just said, please, everything we're going to be doing is informal, and dress accordingly. So please try to attend as much of it as you can. It'll really be a lot of fun, and as I said, it doesn't happen very often. So we're absolutely thrilled. We're going to be doing a number of different presentations to the Lord Mayor, and the Governor will be issuing a proclamation as well. Let's see. Am I forgetting any other events? Of course, we got London Bridge Days. October's filled. There's no.
The jet skiers.
The jet skiers are here. It's something's going on every day, every weekend. We have the Marine Corps League Fall Conference tomorrow morning, early. I'll be speaking at that. So there's just something going on all the time. The transit, Rural Transit Summit is occurring. Tons of things. Lake Havasu City in October. Lake Havasu City is a great place to be all year, but October is really special, so it'll be fun. So with that, there were questions that we had last time, and Jess did some follow-up, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Another special event that's going on too is in the parks every Friday, concert in the parks at London Bridge Beach. So live music and every Friday this month. So
Tonight.
yeah, starting today. We did have a couple questions that we couldn't answer right away at the last coffee with the mayor, so went back and talked to staff and addressed some of these things. We had one gentleman at the last meeting that had a question about permitting. He lived on Martinique Way and was trying to get a patio permitted through the city. There's a septic tank and field process that he had on his property. If you're going to put something and you have a septic tank on your and leach field on your property, those permits do have to go to the county. It was about a 2-week review for the city, and there was more information that was needed from the gentleman. He provided that, and he's got his permit, and he's ready to go as far as construction of that patio permit. There's also the request, and I didn't address it right away, about having 2 different processes, one for small projects, one for big projects, as you get things permitted through the city. That's something we've been doing for a few years now. So we had a question about the Sarah Park gun range and public use of that facility. There was some question whether or not that should be free to the public on certain days. Went back, read the contract, had some conversations with the membership. Councilmember Lane reached out and talked to a number of individuals to try to get a better understanding of what was happening there. The contract specifies that they have the ability to charge a membership due that can't exceed anything that would provide dollars for the improvement of that facility. So on the weekends and on Wednesday for $5, the public can go in there and enjoy that facility. And then throughout the year, it's a membership of $75. Councilmember Lane, I think there's 1,400 members that are at that facility as far as membership.
That is correct. There's about 1,400 members on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday from 8 to noon.
Okay.
The gates are open. You go in, you can use the range. The security guard will come and charge you $5 to use the range. So the security guard is supposed to collect those funds. If you want to join the club, you just go to the trap shoot building that they have there, and you can sign up. You pay $75 a month, an initiation fee, $50, and then you can belong. And then the range is open.
$75 a year, right?
I'm sorry, you're right.
One time $50
a year,
$75 a year,
and then a $50 initiation fee, and then the range is open to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So hopefully that clears that up. And we had another question about trouble finding city buildings, in particular questions about trying to find the police department for our council meetings. As we all know, or should know, or do now anyway, our council meetings are held at the police department. So we've cut back some brush, showed the address, make it pretty clear, and then Jerry's working with the city staff on doing a little A-frame sign. So the days of the council meeting, we'll put a little sign out letting people know that the council meeting is over in this direction. So always trying to encourage attendance at the council meeting. So that comment was appreciated, and we've.
So what we do now, if somebody says they can't find the police department, we arrest them, and then they know where it is after that. Just kidding.
We had a question about speed increasing on South Kiowa, and especially now that school's back in session, and did talk with the police chief about that. They've been out in that area and monitoring the area, putting up our radar, stationary radar that collects speed limits out in that area. Speeds are going between 35 and 45 miles an hour. There were a few traveling, a handful traveling over 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. We've been trying to knock down the speeding in those efforts in those areas. Additional efforts on 2900 through 3300 block of Kiowa Avenue is where we're seeing a lot of speeders in that area, and a lot of citations and tickets have been issued, and PD remains vigilant in that area to try to slow traffic down, especially in proximity of our school areas. We had a question about water main. We had a resident that talked to me about water main over at Smoke Tree in Acoma, some of the depressions in the road and so forth, and the concern there was maybe that's harming the infrastructure underneath the road. It's not, so we take a look at that and look at the infrastructure with depressions you see as traffic goes on it. You see those dips and those marks throughout the roads. Those don't impact the infrastructure that's buried underneath the road. We did take a closer look at the intersection and notice some of the concrete collars that surround the water valves in that area are cracking. So we're gonna so we looked at that area and we saw a problem. So we're gonna be replacing those concrete collars. They need to be replaced. And then finally, we had a question from a gentleman that was concerned about some of the landscape issues that were taking place because of the water main replacement project over on Sneed Drive. So we're still going through that project. We're still doing improvements in that area. And once all those improvements for the water main replacement are completed, then the city goes back in and does the best we can to bring those landscaped areas back to the original condition. So that should happen here in the next week or so. So that's the update from last copy with the mayor. Any questions about any of these requests? Okay, thank you.
All right. And then one other thing that is going to be occurring 2 weeks from today, by the way, that evening the Lord Mayor will be coming in, but that afternoon we will have a Veterans Treatment Court graduation. If you haven't been to one, I encourage you to go. We've had, I believe, something like 111 or 12 graduates of the Veterans Treatment Court. That court absolutely changes lives, and if you haven't been, as I said, if you haven't been to a graduation, I encourage you to go. And beyond the graduations, if you haven't been to the Veterans Treatment Court proceedings, I would encourage you to go to that as well, because that court is very different than a typical court, and it's really making a significant difference in the lives of veterans that live here in Lake Havasu City. So with that, I'll open it up for questions. Guess we're done here. Any questions? Wow, this is a first. Yes, sir.
In the past, both you and the city manager have, on the subject of chip seal, have both stated why the city uses the chip seal program.
Right.
And dollars and cents, it makes
Sure.
good business, okay? But has anybody brought in any kind of a professional to analyze the root cause of the failures of the last 2 years? Obviously, the city didn't pick up on the failures of 2017 because we turned around and did it in 2018. And it appears that there's 3 or 4 different types of failures depending on where you look and what areas. And I think it's important to find out what the real failure was, that we don't repeat it. You're wasting our money.
Well, specifically, what failures are you addressing that happened in the last 2 years?
Well, if you go down and look at the area of Havasu and Kiowa for one, where it's just the La Brea tar pits. And then you go up on top of Kiowa, where they actually went in and they did the sealing of the cracks across about a month prior to doing the chip seal. Well, now if you walk along the curb there and look at the road, you can actually see where they did the repair of the cracks.
Crack sealing?
Yes, the crack sealing is actually visible. You have to realize, we went in there and they put down a layer of slurry and then they put down a layer of gravel. I can't imagine that the chip seal is the predominant thing that's showing now. Where did everything else go?
Well, specifically in that area, I mean, I'm not sure if the crack ceiling, they came back and did some repairs there. It's kind of hard to talk about a particular crack within the city
I'm talking
streets.
about the whole upper part of Kiowa, up by Bison, Lodestar, Yazoo, that whole area.
Okay. So we talked about the crack ceiling in the past, and everything kind of remains true, and we're on course. It's something the city has done in the past because it makes the most financial sense. If you compare it to a total reconstruction project, chip sealing is 1/20th of the.
Totally agree.
1/20th
We've
of the.
had
Sure.
2 years of failure.
Sure. So I'm getting there.
Well-
Let me speak for a second. So as far as the chip sealing, why we've done it in Havasu for so long is because it's very cost effective. In the end, we get structural streets that are sound. That you're not seeing those alligator cracking, those cracks that go across the road. You don't see any of those happening in Havasu. You're going to see those in a lot of other communities. That is a complete road failure. And the good news in Havasu is we have sound and structural roads. That chip seal product goes on top every year, and you're building a harder and stronger road as time goes by. But we get it. We've heard a lot of complaints, a lot of issues with the chip sealing, both in the application with the rocks as they spray up, and kids on bicycles, folks with vehicles that the rocks are hitting and causing damage. There's a lot of issues with the application of that, including the application of when temperatures get too hot in the springtime, and there was unusually hot this springtime when that application went down. It causes, they put the tar down, and then if it's too hot, then those rocks that they put down, they roll. And then the tar that was supposed to be on the bottom, the rocks roll, and then you see the tar that's supposed to be underneath that rock. So those things occur due to temperature and other conditions that were out there. So are we happy about it? No. Does it look poorly? Yeah. Is that road structurally sound? Absolutely. But going forward, we are looking at different ways of road applications. We're trying to get something per square foot per square yard per year, and trying to identify what that cost is. So not only are we not trying to save money on the short term, but we want a long-lasting, quality road for our residents to drive on. And there's other products that are out there. We're looking at them. We're going to see what the best one is. If it comes back and it's chip seal, that's one option. If it comes back, and there's 10 other products that we're looking at right now. Mayor mentioned a rural transportation summit coming up here in a couple of weeks. So we're going to be talking to a lot of professionals across the state, talking to others in their cities, more so than we've already done now about what works in your community. So we're going to go through that process. But roads are a tricky thing. Some people like the roads with no cracks. Some people like a real smooth, soft road as it goes down. But we're trying to get a structurally sound road that's going to last the residents for a while, and spend our dollars wisely.
Yeah, one of the pieces of good news is, as we understand it, HURF funds, Highway User Revenue Funds, which have been swept by the state for 15, 16 years. It is our understanding that starting next year, those sweeps will discontinue. So that will give Lake Havasu City, I think, several $100,000 additional.
Between $400,000 and $500,000.
$400,000 and $500,000 additional monies to put down for roads, which we recognize that we want to be able that we should be able to do that. It's been, if you think about that sweep, if you think even 15 years at 400,000, take the low number, it's a huge number. So it's $6 million that could have been applied to our roads. So, but Jess is correct. We continue to look for better ways, but in the end, what we want is the most cost-effective way to maintain that road. Now, after a while, chip seal doesn't work. You just have to redo the road, and we've done that in several places, including that stretch along Acoma right there above McCulloch. We had to do that stretch. It went all the way down to past Havasu Fitness and that sort of thing, and then up by Mesquite. We had to redo that whole road because those high traffic areas, after a while, they just fail. And we test the roads all the time to see where we're at. And one of the roads we're going to have to replace is the downtown McCulloch area. That road is beginning to fail.
Right.
So we're going to plan for that. Yes, sir.
So what is the cycle of chip seal? Every 3 years, every 5 years?
The life of right now we're looking between 8 and 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. You know, the city has a pocket of dollars. That's why the mayor's talking about the HERF dollars that we have. So we take the dollars available for street repair and we spend our portion every year. We're not able to go and repair all the roads and the streets in the city, but we try to identify the ones that are in the worst condition and repair those. So do a little by little, and then in the end, we do a rotation that takes us about between 8 and 10 years to go through the city for replacement of chip seal product right now.
We use, what's it called, an RSI?
There's a scientific index. I
Yeah.
always forget the
Yeah,
acronym.
road safety
So,
index or
yeah.
something like that.
They're able to measure the condition of the road, and then based on that index, that number tells us the grade of that road, and then the lowest grades get the immediate attention.
Called PCI,
PCI?
PCI.
Pavement Condition Index.
There you go.
Okay, well, road safety, whatever. Thank you. Other questions? Boy, this is, you know, when the weather starts to cool down.
Perhaps you could tell us some more about what's going on with the new state park and the Route 95 entrance and just more details on that?
Do you have an up-to-date from Greg? What's the status in terms of pipes, road?
So from the city's commitment to what we're talking about, the road's been constructed. There's a few minor improvements to be made there. The utility lines are in place. The city's under contract and has ordered the equipment to put up the stoplight. So all the promises that the city has committed to are being fulfilled, and by December timeframe, our commitment will be completed. The road will be built, the utilities will be set in place, the stoplight will be up, and then and our expectation is the developer is going to have that area open to the public. So a new boat launch for the public, and a new state park, access to a new state park, and all the amenities that project will eventually provide. We'll be enjoying that. So that's the time frame right now. So the city's focused on what we need to do to get that accomplished to keep our promises.
And just as a reminder, what we're really doing with Arizona State Park and the developer, when we finally, after more than 2 decades, got all the parties to agree to get this new state park open, what occurred was an agreement among the 3 parties, and basically the Arizona State Park agreed to allow for a new mainland marina and launch ramp, and gave a concessionaire agreement to the developer of the homes of Havasu Riviera. So, and then the city made an agreement that we will put in the basic infrastructure to supply that marina. The developer then came along and says, well, we're going to be building 600 plus homes, a hotel, restaurants, et cetera, et cetera. So a basic road and basic infrastructure isn't adequate for us. So they agreed to pay anything over and above those basic necessities to get to the marina. And at this moment in time, that's about $1.8 million in additional costs that they will be reimbursing the city for. Because they needed a wider road, they needed larger pipe, some fancier landscaping, because that's going to be entering into their development. They are closing on some financing probably today that will help them get started. My understanding is, I'm not sure they're ready to disclose it, but it's my understanding they've found somebody that's going to build the hotel. I know that they found somebody that's going to build a restaurant down at the marina, but they're kind of all waiting for us to finish that road in early December. We're very excited about this getting done. It's taken forever. I remember back in probably 1998, 99, just a couple of years after I got here, I attended a Lake Havasu City town hall And the only thing everybody could talk about is when are we going to get a mainland marina? Because eventually the amount of traffic going over the bridge and trying to use those facilities wasn't good for for the London Bridge. And they also wanted to see something that was on the south side because everything was on the middle to north. And here we are finally, 2018, and it's finally going to open. Yeah, better late than never. But you know, the hard part was really just finding someone at the state level that was willing to make the commitment. And when Executive Director Sue Black came in to Arizona State Parks, her first question is, why isn't this open? And that was just an absolute breath of fresh air. We walked her through some of the logistics of getting it done, and it wasn't too long after that we signed the agreement to make it happen. So I give her a lot of credit. She's done a wonderful job for Arizona State Parks. In fact, they just won the gold medal for the best state park system in the entire United States. And what's interesting, that's the second time she's won it. She won it when she was in Wisconsin. So she knows how to get things done.
It's actually interesting to watch their meetings on Channel 4. The
Oh,
Parks and Rec
sure,
Commissions, yeah.
sure. Well, no, that's our Parks and Rec.
That's ours. Oh,
Oh,
and
yeah.
she's not ours.
No, she's Arizona State
Yeah,
Parks.
state, yeah.
Yeah, so.
But anyway, to know what's going on for us,
Sure,
I watch that once in a while too.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we're also, we're still looking at the redevelopment of Sarah Park, by the way. We were appreciative of the fact that Proposition 409 passed, but as I've indicated before, our hands are still tied until July 1 because we're still under the old law, if you will, the expenditure limitation rules. But come July 1, those shackles will be taken off, and we'll be able to budget based on the revenues that we're receiving on an annual basis. And so we want to make some improvements to Sarah Park. So, other questions? Yes, sir.
The development, the household development in Riviera, is that going to be serviced by fiber optic line?
I have no idea.
No idea. That's a developer question. I'm not sure what they have planned out there as far as that type of infrastructure. That's not city.
Yeah, I have no, that's a great question.
I would assume so, but I don't know for sure.
Well, everything will be underground, I'm sure, certain of that. Because it's the same developer as the Foothills. Now, they are no longer developing in the Foothills, because they've sold off the remaining properties to other builders. The only thing their remaining commitment up in the Foothills is to bring a water tank up to that area, because trying to pump water 24/7 up to the area just doesn't work. As someone who has lived up in that area, my neighbor turns on his shower, I get less of a shower. So having a water tank up there is going to be very helpful. Other questions?
Mayor, it's not a question, but
Sure.
constantly, as a council member, I get questions and comments about Highway 95 and our responsibility versus ADOT's responsibility. If you maybe want to just touch on that, I know you do quite frequently, but refreshers always.
Sure, and I'm going to have Jess help me as well. Some of the comments we get is that there's a lot of trash and whatnot, and also that the road needs some repairing as well. Interesting enough, we're going to have the Arizona State Transportation Board here on
23rd to the 25th, I believe it is.
right,
That
and they're
Wednesday,
going to have a
Thursday,
board
Friday.
meeting at the council chambers in the police station. So that's open to the public. I would encourage everybody to go there. They redid Highway 95 in the year 2004, I believe it was. So those things are only supposed to be about a 20-year term. So we're not too far from them having to redo a good piece of it. I noticed that they put down some smoothing of some sort. I don't know what the heck that was all about.
The state board's going to be in town. I'm not sure if it's related or not.
But I know, Jess, you've been working with the
Our district engineer for ADOT,
right,
Mr. Stump.
on trash.
But trying to start some conversations with trash and the cleanup. So, we talk about chip sealing, we talk about different road projects, products, and our responsibility to keep our roads in good condition and good order. Well, we have that same expectation for ADOT. That's their road, their right of way. So our expectation is that they need to maintain that in a way that that a good road and a good right of way, which means they clean up that trash. So we've started some of those conversations. The initial feedback is that they don't do that, but if you guys want to do it, go for it. That wasn't good enough, so we're going to continue to have conversations about whose responsibility it is to clean up those right of ways. They're going to start looking at some type of like maybe inmate crews out of Kingman, but really we need ADOT staff to step up and do what's right. So I worked in Arizona previously in Pinal County. Out there, I saw ADOT every week out there picking up trash and dealing with illegal signs. So why can't we have that same type of service here in Havasu? So we'll have those conversations. And like I said before, the best way I know how to interact with ADOT is to be persistent. Keep talking about it. Eventually, they'll get annoyed. So yes,
Kind of
Councilmember
our
McCoy.
expectation is, kind of how they take care of Scottsdale and Phoenix.
Sure.
We expect the same, but don't necessarily get that.
Absolutely, we pay taxes out here as well too, so we deserve that level of service in Havasu. If you talk to ADOT about road projects, or whether it's reconstruction of 95 or improvements there or trash, the typical response you're going to get every time is, well, we don't have any money for those types of things. Well, but we got to work with the resources you have, then move some stuff around and help us out. 95, especially on the north side, is it's gross. It's absolutely terrible. So we need to address that. We are looking at different crews that go through our city court and that receive community service. So we are using some of those efforts to do some cleanup around the area, including 95. So we'll continue to do that to kind of help out. But in the end, they're responsible for their road, their right of way, and we're trying to hold them accountable. And we'll see where we get with that. So,
Yeah, exactly.
Councilman Berlin.
Yes, we have several groups here in town that have adopted portions of the highway and are cleaning it up. November the 3rd, here in another month. 8 o'clock, we're going to be meeting in front of Staples. The Kiwanis group, along with the four-wheel drive group, will be starting at 8 o'clock. They're going to be cleaning up the highway from Kiowa north. So there will be a community group out there doing that that morning. That was just set up. If anybody has any questions, I'll be out there picking up trash. So if anybody wants to join me, you're free to come out. We'll be meeting in front of the Staples at 8 o'clock in the morning.
November
And it's the
3rd?
Kiwanis and the four-wheel drive group.
November 3rd. Is that a
November the
Saturday?
3rd.
Is that a
It's a
Saturday?
Saturday at 8
Saturday,
o'clock.
Can
okay.
you get that information to my office? I'd love to
Absolutely.
participate.
Sure.
And meet at Staples? Or the
We're going to meet at Staples.
Good exercise.
Yep, good exercise, you're right.
It is. We do this 3 times a year through the local Kiwanis group. And there's a local four-wheel drive group, and I'm not sure which one it is, that also wants to help because it seems like all the trash is up there and along the highway, especially on the north end of town. So we're going to be out there cleaning up, and anybody who wants to join me is welcome to come out.
Yeah, not really sure why the trash ends up in that area.
Because the landfill's up there.
Yeah, that could be it. That could
I
be
think
it.
there's a lot of debris
Cover
that
your
comes from
load.
construction crews too, that go out to some of the hardware places out there, and a lot of those construction trucks lose bolts and drywall and paint buckets. And
Got it.
so-
That would do it. Other questions? Donna?
I'm just curious, in the new year coming soon, do you have any plans to come back for the coffee with the mayor and, I don't know, maybe ask some questions of your own?
No.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I'm gonna go to call to the public at the council meetings.
He's giving you
I'm gonna make sure they do something about these darn roads.
We hope you do.
Now, it's funny because on the roads, we recognize that they need some repair and some help. It's just that, and hasn't been until recently that some funding is available. I mean, when the recession hit, we were making cuts wherever we had to do it, and now that we're starting to get in a better position, I'm pretty confident that the budgets for roads will be increasing, if at all, just for the $400,000 or $500,000 of HERF funding. I mean, that goes a long ways. It really does. So that helps tremendously.
And we're hoping to see those dollars in next year's budget come July 1st.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry,
Councilmember.
not trying to put you. I just wanted to let everyone else here know that on Sunday, we're gonna have kind of an early cake party for our mayor. Since the next couple of months are gonna be so busy, so I wanted to invite everybody, 4 o'clock at the rodeo grounds, and have a little cake and wish the mayor a happy retirement.
4 o'clock at the rodeo grounds
When? This Sunday.
this Sunday.
This Sunday, 4 o'clock.
Yeah, my term ends, by the way, November 27th. I get the question all the time. My term ends on November 27th. Mayor-elect Sheehy takes over on that same day. Basically, the way it works is that November 27th happens to be the second council meeting of November, and that's when the transition takes place. I go to the meeting, I open the meeting, I roll call, and then it gets turned over to swearing in of our new folks. And then once they take the seats, then my 12 years is done. So, but it is on November 27th. I anticipate a great new council. I think there's a lot of young people that are on the council, and I think that's really great. And I think, and yeah, and well.
That's what you trying to say.
Well, what I also like about the fact that there's younger people on the council is that many of them grew up here, so they're fully invested, and so I think that's really good because they fully understand that the decisions they make they're going to have to live with for many years to come. So I really believe that this new council is going to do a great job. I'm confident. Other questions?
You want to talk about the political signs? How long did they stay up till the election?
That's a great question. I get questions all the time about why are political signs still up. It's because those signs are for people who still have an election in November. That's the difference. For the city council, those should all be down. So if there's any of those up, they shouldn't be. But others still have a race come November 6th. Is that election day this year?
Yeah.
So, November 6th. So that's why they leave them up. So you're going to see, some of the state races, and you're going to see corporation commission, etc. So if there is if they're on the ballot in November, then they're allowed to leave those signs up, which only makes sense.
You mentioned who we can call about the ones that are so close where you can't see the turn.
If you see some type of legal signs signs that are up that
Yeah.
shouldn't be up, if you contact the city clerk's office, they'll be happy to.
Well, they just need to be moved back on Maricopa and McCulloch.
Okay.
Because you can't turn left out of there. It's very difficult.
Yeah, certainly signs that block
They're
traffic
way
or block
close.
views or cause safety concerns. Yeah, we need to address those.
Okay.
Yeah, those need to be moved back. And
Yeah, they do.
yeah, and what happens, and I've been over the last 12 years, guilty of it myself. You don't when you're putting it out, you don't really recognize it, because I've received a couple calls and I just went out there and moved them back.
Yeah.
And it cracked me up, because usually if I move them back, someone takes their signs and moves it forward. and so I call code enforcement.
That's a pretty busy left turn corner.
Yeah,
there.
yeah, absolutely. So,
Thank you.
anyone else? Wow, it's only 8:20. David.
You know, since we have some time, I'll just put a plug out there, a service for the people that live here in Lake Havasu. Larry takes care of this. The Lake Havasu Marine Association, in agreement with Arizona Game and Fish, has it set up. If you go over to the MVD office, you can register your boats in Lake Havasu City. You do not have to go all the way to Kingman. It's 3 days out of every month. It's the third Tuesday of every month, and then the Monday and the Wednesday between those days. It sounds confusing the way it's said, but sometimes that third Tuesday is really the second Monday. So it's the third.
Thanks for clearing that up.
So it's the third Tuesday of the month. The third Tuesday of the month, and then the Monday and the Wednesday before and after. You can bring your boat over to the MVD office. You go around back, and you can register your boat here in Lake Havasu without having to go to Kingman. There's volunteers there. Game and Fish has people there that take the money and do the work, and then the Marine Association has the volunteers that will do any inspections if you need inspections done on it, and it's every single month, and it's for the people here in Lake Havasu, so they don't have to make the 60 mile each way trip to Kingman to register their boats.
Now, at the next Marine Association meeting, isn't Doyle Wilson going to be presenting about the lake bottom?
The survey.
Yeah.
They've totally mapped the entire bottom, as you know.
Right.
Working with Crisco and the Lake Havasu Marine Association, they were able to map the entire bottom of the lake. And Doyle Wilson, the expert, will be giving a presentation.
Yeah, so that
on
should be.
And I also believe he's going to be doing a presentation for the city council on Tuesday, just on water issues.
Yeah, so if anybody's interested in water conservation, Dr. Doyle Wilson will be doing a 1-hour presentation, 5 o'clock on Tuesday, talking about water issues here in Lake Havasu City. You know, really the good news is that we're in really good shape when it comes to water here in Lake Havasu City, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be thinking about drought conditions, conservation, that sort of thing. I think I got a question last time about, well, if build-out's 96,000 permanent residents, what about winter visitors, that sort of thing, that actually brings you up higher than that? If you kind of do the math, right now we're using half our allocation and we're at 55,000 residents. So if you doubled that, and which means we've used up our entire allocation, we'd be at 110,000 permanent residents, and we're only at our build out's at 96. So that's pretty much as far as we're going to be able to get. So, and there's some land issues that relate to that. Yes, ma'am.
Where is Dr. Doyle's presentation Tuesday?
That will be at the council chambers at the police department, 5 o'clock. So
1 hour earlier than the scheduled council meeting.
right, we were going to have it the last council meeting, but there was a misunderstanding of how much time he needed, and he also teaches at ASU, so it just wasn't going to work. So we tabled it to give him a full hour early enough, so then he can teach class later that evening. So, anyone else?
Just another announcement.
Sure.
While we're here, if we have some time. On Saturday, the Havasu Community Health Foundation is having their health fair. Havasu Regional Medical Center is a sponsor, and we will be there. We will be on site. We will have $20 flu shots to the first 100 that would like them. We also will be, ladies, you're able to actually schedule your 3D mammogram there on site. If you'd like to do that, we'll be on site to do that as well. And there'll be a ton of vendors. It's after the breast cancer walk on Saturday, so 8 to noon at the Aquatic Center, and it's this Saturday.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Ready.
Time flies.
Where did the week go?
Yeah, I think Mayor-elect Sheehy will be presenting a proclamation at the breast cancer walk tomorrow morning. So,
A&M.
7? Yeah.
Things will be changing around here.
Yeah, yeah. What Cal, for those of you who don't know, Cal, as the London Bridge Resort manager, general manager, he works very late. So, so I think what's going to happen is there won't be any event in Havasu allowed prior to 9 o'clock.
By ordinance.
So,
No breakfast, huh?
well, it'll be brunch. It'll be brunch.
We'll be listening lunch.
Yeah. So but yeah, again, a lot of great events occurring, and but Cal will be there tomorrow morning, and I'll be at the Marine Corps conference. So, anything else? We could have a short hour on Channel 4. Well, I guess. I want to make for next month. We're working on it. It will be the first Friday, which is, I believe, November 2nd. Am I getting that right? Okay, the November 2nd. We're working on a location. We're going to try to do a little bit bigger location. This room's been great, but we figure since it would be my last one with Jess, we may have a little bit larger crowd, so we're going to try to be accommodating. So we're going to look at the various locations that might be available. We would love to be able to do it outside, but that's really difficult to do. It would be probably pretty good weather on November 2nd, but we end up with a lot of times traffic noise and whatnot. So we're going to explore, and as soon as we know, we'll let you all
How
know.
about the new hotel? Do they have a room?
I don't know. We'll have to look.
Not large enough, they don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Sunset Room might be a possibility. The Bridgeview Room might be a possibility. But as soon as we know, we'll get that out. Yes, ma'am.
I was looking on the city website this morning on my phone for the location and time of this meeting. I had a hard time finding it. Is that just me, or is there some place, where exactly should I be looking?
I'll have to ask Jess.
Well, we put out the press release, so sometimes if you look on the press release section, they'll have some of the news there, but there's a lot of information to kind of filter through. We'll take a look at it, make sure we get it on the calendar.
Yeah, I did a search and.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
did searched three different things. I had to say coffee with the mayor, October 2018, and that only brought up 2 pages of listing.
Okay.
So I finally got it.
Okay. We hear you. We'll make some changes.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. We'll see what we can do to make it pop up.
Sometimes it's in the paper, but I didn't see it recently.
Yeah, I'm not sure I did either. All right, unless there's any other questions, I thank you all for being here. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.